So today we are starting Morphossyntax, okay? Second semester 2021. And before we start, I'd like to do a kind of a short brainstorm with you. When you hear the word morphosyntax, what do you feel about it? What do you understand by morphosyntax when you enrolled for this subject, when you subscribed for this subject? What did you expect to see in a subject like this? Let me share the screen
Well,
here.
I thought it
Yes.
was something related to the origin of English. I don't know, not the origin. I mean, the back in the time, but the way the words got created, something like that.
Yes. Not exactly the origins, but also the origins, because as you already know from Panorama, English has an origin which is Celtic languages and Germanic languages and Latin, and all these languages influenced the way that English words, English phrases, and sentences are formed. So you're right to a certain point. Now, what does morphosyntax? What do you think morphosyntax studies? The origin, you mean the schemes of the language, yeah? So
and
what do you
also the
think
way
it
that they are going
is?
and also the way
Those
that they are
things.
going to be organized into a sentence.
That's it. Yes, especially the syntax part. Syntax is about organization. Yeah. So uh, let's do some morphological analysis of the word morphosyntax. So what we have is morpho, morphosyntax. Do you see my whiteboard, my poor whiteboard? It's a new invention here. Do you see something on the screen like handwritten? No?
No.
Not yet. We can.
I can
Uh,
only see the screen that it's really multiplied right now.
yeah, yeah. Don't you see a whiteboard? Not even now. Oh
No.
gosh.
No.
So I think this cannot be projected. Let me stop the sharing and try again. One more time. Do you see it now?
Yes.
It's like a whiteboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, sometimes it plays tricks on me. I'd like to project on the window, but Windows does not recognize it as a window. I don't know why. So let's do a morphological analysis of the word morphosyntax. That's funny. We are going to study morphosyntactically or morphologically the word morphosyntax. And then you have this part here, morpho. Now, what does morpho mean? You have probably come across these words when you studied biology uh, or when you studied Portuguese language. What does morpho mean?
It means to change into another thing, right? Change.
For example, in which you said change, okay? Where did you get this idea that morpho is somehow related to change?
Well, do you want me to be honest? It's because I really liked Power Rangers when I was a kid, and they used it to morph into to transform into this
Well,
thing.
Power Rangers is wonderful. Yes, good. So what do they
I
do?
was really a big fan.
I'm not informed about Power Rangers, but I watched the predecessor of Power Rangers, which were the Changemen. So it has a lot to do with change. Now, what do they do? What is the word? You can contextualize that. What in the word or in the piece of the word here, morpho, uh, resembled you of change? Changing what?
I guess the structure.
A change in the structure. Good. We are we are getting there. Good. A change in the structure. Uh, you probably don't know how Seixas because you are too young, but he has a song. Eu prefiro ser essa metamorfose ambulante. What is a metamorphose? Metamorphosis process. What happens to the bug that gets wings and becomes a butterfly? A process of changing its structure. And then it becomes a butterfly and starts scaring me. Did you know that? I'm afraid of this insect. So, morphosyntax is a matter of structure. Yeah, so it has a lot to do with structure. Now, just as a curiosity, look for the meaning of morphos. You will probably find it in Google Translator with an origin in which language? Morphos. Well, morphos comes from Greek. And it means exactly structure. Okay. So we have two moments in this subject that we are going to approach. Okay. We have the morphos part and we have the syntax part of the course. In the morphos part, we are going to concentrate on the structure. Okay. And then in the syntax part, we are going to talk about how to arrange. We are going to talk about the arrangement of the structure. Okay. So basically, this part of the course is the most basic one. It's more basic than the syntax part. It's like playing with Lego. You all probably had a Lego kit or uh, some kind of other toys that you had to put together, put the pieces together. So we are going first to understand the pieces. Then we are going to learn how they get together. Okay. Now, when I talk about language, what are the pieces of language? What let's think about some pieces of language that you have already learned. Every language is made of what?
I could say letter.
Language. Okay. Language. So language is composed of letters. What else? Come on, guys. Just letters.
Words.
Words. Piadinha infame, né? O que você faz? Faço letras. No mestrado vou fazer palavras. Words. What else? Somebody said sentences. Is there something in between words and sentences?
The structure of the language.
Yes,
or the
yes, but
meaning
this
of the
this is
word,
part of the rules, not the units.
the
Uh,
meaning of the words.
we have the letters. Letters get together. They form words. But before they form words, they form something else in the middle here. Here in the middle,
Syllable.
syllables. Okay. Syllables. Okay. I see that you are considering the language in its graphic aspects. Okay. Letters get together and form syllables, but syllables are a representation of what?
Of sounds.
Sounds. And sounds are technically called. Have you had classes with Professor Susanna already?
Yes.
About what?
Phonemes.
Yeah,
Phonetics.
sounds. Yeah,
Phone,
sounds are
phone.
called phonemes. Oops. Phone, phonemes. And phonemes get together to form words. And what else? So we have letters, we have words, we have syllables that represent sounds that are called phonemes. They get together, they form words, and then they form sentences. But sentences can be long. Let's use non-technical terms, okay? They can be either short or long. Sometimes they are long, but they are not very difficult. But sometimes I'll show you some examples. Different degrees of complexity in a sentence. For example, Ushua is a teacher. And another one. Ushua is a teacher and a poor guitar player. Okay, what makes number one different from number two? In this first one, I have who is the subject? I have a subject, a verb to be here, and what I am, a teacher. Okay, so I have the famous SVC. Let's call it complement. It's not only this, okay? You are going to see that this is a teacher part. We can define it with more complexity, but this definition will do for the moment. Ushoa is a teacher, period. Okay. Now, what is the difference between this one and the second? Here, I have the first one. So I have subject. Again, let me use another color. Let me use this green. We have me as the subject, is as the verb, a teacher as a complement in a lot of inverted commas, okay, because it's not only a complement. And we have all this other part here. And a guitar and a poor guitar player. So now we have more complicated structure. We have poor as an adjective. We have guitar as a noun, player as a noun, and we can put two ideas together. How do we put the two ideas together? The poor,
Using the conjunction.
that's it, the conjunction here. So I can put two ideas together by using and. In fact, what I have here is idea number one. Ushua equals teacher. And idea number two, Ushua equals a poor guitar player. And I put the two ideas together, idea one plus idea two, in a sentence. But this is not a regular type of sentence. It's a complex sentence. Why complex? Because it expresses two ideas by means of using a conjunction. Instead of the plus sign, I use and. And and is not the only conjunction we have. We have also but. I can play I can play the guitar, but I can't play the bass. It's another idea, okay? The idea of opposition. So as you can see, we have again the units in language. We have the sentence, going back to the level we stopped, the sentence. But the sentence can be sentence plus sentence plus sentence. Okay? And these sentences that have only one subject and one object, they are also called phrases. Okay? I'm sorry, not phrases. I made a mistake here. They are also called clauses. Okay, so the simplest type of sentence is what we call the clausal sentence. Why? Because it has only one clause. Ushua is a teacher and a guitar player is a complex sentence because inside one sentence I have two clauses. Clause number one, Ushua is a teacher. Clause number two, Ushua is a guitar player. When I put them together, I do not have to repeat the subject. I use the same subject, but I insert a conjunction and the second idea. Okay, so a clausal sentence is the simplest type of sentence because it has only one clause. But this is to the point when we study syntax, because syntax is about arrangement. To start with, we are going to start with the morph part, which, as you said, is the structure. But structure is still a vague definition. We are going to call it form. And Saussure told us that linguistics should be scientific. So to be scientific, we must have a method and we must have an object of study. What's the object of study, for example, of botanics? Let's go to the hard sciences. What's the object of study of botanics?
Plants.
The plants, yeah. What's the object of study of classic mechanics in physics? Physics is a science, but with sub-areas. In mechanics, we study movement. The object of study of phonetics. What's the object of study of phonetics?
The sounds of a language.
The sounds that we call, so we have phonetics. They study the sound, also called phoneme. Guess what? What's the object of study of morphology? If phonetics study the phoneme, morphology will study
Morphine.
the morpheme. Okay, so if we are going to study an object, we must be able to describe this object. And we must be aware not to make confusion between this object and what it looks like. What do I mean by that? We are going to study the morpheme. Now take the word morphosyntax again. Morphosyntax. Morphosyntax is a word. Okay, we have an agreement that this is a word. Now, my question is, how many morphemes here in this word? How many morphemes do we have in the word morphosyntax? Just by feeling.
2.
You saw at the beginning of the class that we split it like morphos. Okay, maybe we have this double S, so let's cross it out. It's just because of orthographic rules. So we have morpho on the one side, and we have syntax on the other side. Now, uh, as you can see, each of them has the same degree of importance, but this is a topic that we are going to approach later. What I want you now to make a difference is that words are different from morphemes. The same way, walls are different from bricks. Walls are made of bricks, but a brick is not a wall, and a wall is not a brick. Okay, one is the subunit of the other. So, which is the most basic unit, the word or the morpheme?
The morpheme.
The morpheme
The
is more
morpheme.
basic, okay? And that's why in the science that will study the process of word formation, and for sure we are going to deal with word formation. This is one of the interests of morphology. We are first going to understand how or what are the constituent elements of words. Okay, so if we are going to study the word, we have to first understand what morphemes are. Morphemes are elements that get together to form words. Ah, teacher, great. So morphemes are syllables. Not exactly. Morphemes are not syllables. Okay, and we are going to approach that right now because syllables refer to sounds, whereas morphemes refer to notions of meaning. For example, yesterday I tried to watch a movie, but I got bored because the movie was boring. Is bored the same word as boring?
No. Bored,
Of
it's
course
inner.
not. Bored is different from boring. Are they completely apart one from the other in terms of meaning?
No, they're kind of connected.
Kind of connected. And they are kind of connected because this bore part, we have a changing vowel, okay? We have a different ending that we call suffix, the final ed versus the ing, but we can see a common root. And that's exactly what this part of the word is. It's the root of the words, okay? So bored and boring, it's like me and my brother. We do not have the same name, but we share a last name. We share the same roots. Bored and boring share the same roots, but bored is a participle, is a word in the participle that can be used to describe a state of being, and boring is an adjective formed by the suffix ing. And is it the same, for example, saying I'm disturbing my brother, and my brother is really disturbing? Is this disturbing
It's not.
underlined in green the same disturbing underlined in blue?
No, because the first one is the
No.
verb.
And the second,
It's like a statement of how
Exactly.
he is. No.
it's an adjective, yeah? He is a disturbing guy. My brother is really disturbing. So you see, they coincide letter by letter, they coincide syllable by syllable, they end in ing, but this ing in the first disturbing has a different function as the ing from the ing in the second occurrence of in disturbing. So what you can see is that although we have the same letters, the same syllables, the same sound, we have differences in meaning. And these differences in meaning are determined by morphological and syntactical rules. So this course is all about the way these words are formed, about the way these parts of language get together to provide meaning, and about differences and similarities between the parts of the system and the rules of the system. Okay, so imagine that language. In fact, not imagine. Language is like an engine. In an engine, each part of the engine has its own functions. For instance, and now it's a time for a mechanics class. So you have the ignition engine, yeah, which starts the working process of the engine. You have those uh, transmissors. I'll tell you that in Portuguese because I don't know the name of each part of an engine. No motor de um carro você tem o motor de arranque, você tem as correias de transmissão, você tem cada engrenagem, os cilindros, os pistões. Um motor funciona sem alguma dessas peças? Se eu
No.
No.
Não, né? A mesma coisa é a língua, né? Se eu arrancar um elemento da língua, né, da linguagem, ela deixa de funcionar. Mas um motor funciona se eu colocar. Então, basta que eu tenha todas as peças e as ponha juntas e elas vão funcionar. Tá, juntei tudo, funciona aí. Ou cada coisa vai no seu lugar. Não adianta eu querer pôr um pistão de, sei lá, de Volkswagen num Ford. Ele não vai funcionar. Não adianta eu querer pôr uma vela de ignição no lugar de um pistão. Ou sei lá, ou botar uma correia de uma polia do ar-condicionado na polia que vai movimentar a engrenagem central do motor. Não vai funcionar. Tem diferente aperto, diferentes tamanhos. O que eu quero dizer é, preciso das peças. I need the pieces, but I also need the order to make the system work. Okay? So language, from the structuralist perspective, it's the same as saying engine or a structure. If this course analysis that you were introduced to last class deal with language from a post-structuralist perspective, the fact is that sciences like phonetics or morphology look at language as a system. And a system to work must have internal pieces and internal rules to get working properly. So we are going back now to structuralism. Okay. In good old times, I used to first teach you morphosyntax and then discourse analysis because I believe this is the best order. Because we introduce you to the structure, we tell you that the structure exists, and after that, one semester later, we'll tell you, forget about the structure I told you about, because it's just a model. But I don't mean it does not work. I mean, it does not work as perfectly as structuralists believed. Okay, but unfortunately, now Panorama has had its. It used to be called Língua, Cultura e Identidade. It was reduced in the hours and also in the order. So now you first see post-structuralist theory, and then you are introduced to structuralist theory. But you were a structuralist. You had the structuralist approach when you had classes with Susanna in phonetics and phonology, and also in Portuguese. Okay, have you had morphosyntax of Portuguese? Oh, at the same time.
We are
Oh,
having it now.
sorry about that. Okay, and I'm not really sorry about that because maybe it will help you transpose the
We're
knowledge
having it
from one
right now
language to
too.
another. Okay, so yeah, sorry. Again, Mateus, please. Can you repeat
I
that?
mean, this period.
Well, I didn't hear it. There may be some sound difficulty. Anyway, so we are going to start the course, as you may have noticed, from the morpho part of morphosyntax. So first things, the first elements that we are going to see are all about morphemes. Okay. Ah, Mateus said he's having the same problem. What problem when you say problem? Let me see the chat.
Teachers,
I was
I
not
have
looking at the chat. I'm sorry. Okay, some of you are having internet connections like with oscillation. Uh, do you hear me well? I mean, the majority of you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Most of the time, yes.
those of you who are having problems, you can always try to see the recorded video when it becomes available. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that maybe it's his device because even when he speaks, it's really hard to understand him.
Uh, you mean my audio device?
No, I mean Mateus one.
Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, probably. Is it an Android, Mateus, or a PC?
Yeah, it is. No,
A
it's
PC?
an Android.
Oh, an
No, it's
Android.
an
Yes.
Android.
Yeah, sometimes Androids they like to update themselves when they think it's the moment, not when it's the most appropriate moment. Sometimes they consume a lot of band. Anyway, so let's go to the slides here. I'm going to present them for you. This is the programmed part. Before we were just having a brainstorm. So what I'm going to tell you today is approached in Brinton and Brinton chapter 4, okay? The notions are the differences between the notions of word, morpheme, the differences with syllables, okay? So let's go to it. I'll share the screen. So, as I told you, this is the morphology part. It's the first part of the course. And morphology, as you already know now, is the science of forms. Okay, logi meaning forms. This splitting of the words is not precise. Okay, it's just intuitive for you to know. Because if we were to make a very precise approach, we wouldn't include the O of ology. It would be just logi. This O is what we call a filler, and we are going to talk about it. Okay, but we have basically the notion of form and the science of form. So what kind of form? Of course, in linguistics, so the science of word forms. It's the study of the internal structure of words. So the most basic unit of morphology is not the word. It's something even more basic. It's the morpheme. Okay. And it will also study how these morphemes get together to form words. So it has to study the rules that govern the process of word formation. Do you have any questions? Is it understandable?
Yeah.
Okay. When it becomes ununderstandable, you see, understandable, ununderstandable. I don't know if the word exists, but we can form it. Okay. And you may understand the word even if it doesn't exist because you know what the prefix means. This is also an object of morphological studies. But anyway, when it becomes unintelligible and
Wow.
unintelligible exists as a word, please let me know. Don't let questions uh, be postponed for the next class. Okay, this is a really hard subject. It's not like a panorama that you can have subjectivity. It's supposed to be objective. There are supposed to be truths here that we all must share. Okay, and if you don't understand something, please interrupt me whenever you feel uncomfortable with the piece of information you didn't process well. So, basic unit, the morpheme. What is the morpheme? Well, I don't know what a morpheme is, but I know what a morpheme is not. Teacher, you want to make me mad. What do you mean by I don't know what a morpheme is, but I know what it's not? Let's recall Ferdinand de Saussure. Saussure once told us that language is a set of discrete units that combine to each other. When he says a set of discrete units, he means a set of units that are different from each other. So they are what all the others are not. Okay, so in my family, we are 7 brothers. And sometimes I have my existential crisis. So you may ask me, Ushua, who are you? And I may answer you, well, I don't know. But I know I'm different from my brothers. Uh, I'm José. I'm not João. I'm not Francisco. I'm not Manuel. I'm José. But who are you? I don't know. I am in a crisis, but I know I'm not them. I'm telling you this in this supposedly funny way for you to understand that in language it's pretty much the same. You sometimes may have difficulty to define a verb, but you certainly know that a verb is an element of language that is not an adverb. That's not a noun, not a conjunction. It's not even a preposition. It's a verb, and it should go in places where verbs fit. So verbs behave like verbs. Do you understand? So when Saucy says a set of discrete units combined, he means these units can only be defined in opposition to all the others. And this is what I'm trying to do with morphemes now. So what are morphemes? Well, before we say what they are, we are going to say what they are not. Morphemes are not about sounds, because as you are going to see, there may be two sounds that get together inside the same morpheme. Morphemes are not syllables because they are not separated the same way. Saying that morphemes is a set of letters is too vague as well. So let's see what they are not. Look here. We have the words likely and unlikely. We also have the pair developed and undeveloped. What is the difference between likely and unlikely? If I tell you that something is likely to happen, what does that mean?
Something might happen.
Yeah. Now, if something is unlikely to happen, what does it mean?
It's like no, it's not probably.
Yeah. Uh, well, let me dream, okay? It's unlikely that Bolsonaro will be reelected. Let me dream, okay? Uh, so in this case, it's not a probability. Now, when I say it's likely that he will be reelected, now it's a probability. So what can you conclude about an?
It's going to give us like a kind of negative idea.
Very good. And can you prove that by testing in other words? Think of other word pairs that have this blah 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 part and this un blah 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 part. Take a look at developed and undeveloped. Is it the same? São Luís is a very developed town. Let's dream, okay? Well, this city is very developed, okay? However, it used to be really undeveloped years ago. Is it the same idea of opposition? One being
Yeah.
the antonym of
Yes.
the other. Yeah. So un is a prefix that can be, I mean, roughly related to the idea of not being something. Yeah. For example, give me more examples from of your own.
Unfortunately,
Unfortunately, which is exactly the opposite of fortunately. And we have other parts of the word fortunately, like this final ly in unlikely. Yeah, they share this final ly that is also meaningful. Okay, we'll cross this bridge when we come to it. Okay, but this ly is also important for us. Well, more words with
ungrateful.
un
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. Very good. So if something is breakable, it's because it breaks. If something is unbreakable, it's because it will never break. Don't tell me umbrella, okay, please. Because umbrella is with an M, it's completely different case. Although the sound is the same or pretty much the same. So as we're gonna see, it's not a matter of sound, it's a matter of function. Well, think of other examples.
Unsure.
I
Unsure,
don't.
sure and unsure.
Unseen, I guess.
Unseen, yeah. Seen is the participle of the verb to see. Unseen is when you are not seen, okay? Uh, if you like jazz as I do, you probably heard Nat King Cole's song Unforgettable, yeah, which is
Unbelievable.
yeah, unbelievable. Someone that you cannot forget, someone you cannot, someone or something you cannot believe, and so on. So as it may rest proved, is a prefix that means no or not, depending on the grammatical context. And li, as in likely, is an adverbial suffix. Teacher, what the hell is an adverbial suffix? Well, adverbs, as the name says, as the technical terminology suggests, come add verbs. So it comes somewhere with the verb. Where? Think of sentences that have adverbs. Professor Ochoa patiently taught the lesson. The students uh, attended the class attentionally. Or little by little, which is also it's an adverbial phrase. Little by little, the students were getting tired. Where do adverbs go?
It's like it's going to give a specific intention to the main verb of the sentence.
A specific intention. Yes,
Yeah, it's going
sometimes
like
an
to, yeah, it's
intention. Yes, go on with your
uh
point.
yeah, it's like the verb can have the action, but the adverb it's going to be like really specific about that action that is going to be done.
Do you see me on the screen? Yeah?
Yeah,
Great. That's it. Adverbs operate to modify. To modify what?
the verb.
The verb. That's it. It will tell the mode, the way it's being done, the time it's going to happen or it happened, and so on. So they come, adverbs come, add means beside the verb, beside after, beside before. Well, it depends on other grammatical rules, but they will always be around with the verb, modifying the action. Okay, and that's why they're called adverbs. What we just have done here is a morphological analysis of the word adverbial. So we analyze the word adverbial from a morphological perspective to understand what an adverb is. It's something beside the verb. Okay, and it's the case of li, in likely and unlikely. And you probably know other words that end in li, don't you? Patiently. What does patiently mean? They patiently attended to the lecture. They attended to the lecture in a patient way or with a lot of patience. Other adverbs ending in li.
Honestly,
Honestly. Example in a clause or in a sentence. Can you come up with a sentence with this honestly? Any silly sentence you would like to form.
he has worked honestly his whole life.
Very good. So, look, let's go to the whiteboard. He has worked honestly during his whole life. Let me put this in the board here. Oh, sorry. Please let me know if the board will appear. Do you see the whiteboard?
Yeah,
Good. Give me just a moment to connect the tablet here. So he has worked it's an I, believe me. Okay. So when you get honestly, where does it happen? Right after, right before what? Do you hear me?
yes,
So take a look at honestly with the lead termination here. It happens just before worked. And worked is what?
verb.
The verb. Is it the same if I drop honestly? He has worked for his whole life. Or do we have some meaning loss?
Yeah, we lose.
We
Uh,
lose meaning. We need this honestly to improve the verb, to specify the verb, or in technical terms, to modify. So adverbs are verb modifiers. Of course, li is not the only suffix. Li is a suffix. It is not the only one that will give us this notion of adverb, but it's one of the most recurrent ones. It's one of the most abundant forms of making an adverb, and that's why it's so important. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. Do you see the slides now?
yes,
Good. So, as we have proved, li is an adverbial suffix. And how about the final ed, as in developed? Well, it's also a suffix, okay? Developed and undeveloped, they are all given by the final ed. And when you learned verbs in English, you learn the functions of the final ed. What are the functions of the final ed in a verb?
change to the past.
Change it to the simple past. And what are the functions of the final ed in an adjective, which seems to be the case here? Well, it will depend on where we apply this word developed and undeveloped. Sometimes it's a verb and sometimes it's an adjective. Example. Do you see the whiteboard again?
Yes.
So see, developed linguistics as a science. What is the function of developed in this context? Take the word developed.
It's a verb.
It's a verb. Okay. Now, take a second case. Uh, Germany is considered economically developed. I'm sorry about the handwriting. Okay. What is the function of developed here?
Adjective.
Adjective.
It's an adjective. But as you can see, both of them end in a final ed. A verb and an adjective ending with what I call apparently, and take this word apparently as the same morpheme. Why do I say apparently? Because what looks like may be or may not be the same. And this is the case when ed is different from ed. Teacher, what do you mean? I mean that the ed we put after verbs with verbal function, they are simple past, which is the case here. And the ed that we use to form adjectives is what we call adjective form suffix. So this suffix in sentence number 1 is not the suffix in sentence number 2, although they look like twin brothers or sisters. They look like the same, but they are not. They happen to have the same letters. They happen to have the same phonetic realization, but they are not the same. We are going to study this when we discuss allomorphs and homophones, which is a topic coming soon. Okay. For the moment, I just would like you to keep in mind that ed in developed is a suffix morpheme. A suffix is a part of the ending of it's the ending of words. And taking it from an analogic perspective, a prefix is part of the beginning of words as ad in adverbial. Okay? Some of these prefixes and suffixes that are morphemes, prefixes are morphemes, suffixes are morphemes. Some of them have an independent meaning in English. They mean on their own. They are also words. Some of them will only have a meaning when you go back in the history of language to its Latin or Greek or Celtic or Gallic origin. You get it? When they have an independent meaning, when they are also words, as for example in White House, the proper name, the White House. Well, but white in English has a meaning. It means the color. So we call it a free morpheme. Now, when it does not have a meaning in English, like add, AD, it does not have a meaning in English. It only has a meaning in Latin. So we say it does not form a word on its own, so it's a bound morpheme. What does it mean by being bound? It means it needs something else to be completely meaningful in the definition of meaning according to what we look up the dictionary. Okay? We are going to deal with bound and free morphemes as well in classes to come. For the moment, I want you to know that morphemes happen all around the words. They may be at the beginning, as in unlikely. They may be in the middle, as in like, which you know sometimes is a verb, sometimes it's an adjective, a comparative form, okay, to be like someone. And they may happen at the end of the word. So what we have here in unlikely is a combination of a prefix, a root, we call the most important part of the word, the one that bears the meaning, the root, and a suffix which comes at the end of the word. Is that all right? Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Good. So let's try to define morphemes. A morpheme is the minimal unit of meaning. To whom? The minimal unit of meaning for morphological purposes. Okay, so the minimal unit of meaning to morphology. Why do I make this? I'll abbreviate it because it's difficult to write with the mouse. Why do I make this remark to morphology? What is the minimal unit of meaning to phonetics? It's the phoneme. What's the minimal unit of meaning to semanticists? It's the word, because semanticists deal with definitions of the words, especially those who write dictionaries. What's the minimal unit of study for a chemist? Well, classic chemistry used to say the atom, because atom means not divisible. But we know now that there are the protons, the neutrons, the electrons, the mesons. But anyway, okay, I hope you understood me by this moment. The minimal unit of meaning for someone that, I don't know, maybe a computer technician. There are many minimal units. A hard disk is a minimal unit. A motherboard is a minimal unit. A memory set is a minimal unit. So he puts units together to form a complex system called a computer by having a motherboard, a hard disk, a video card, a processor. You see? So the minimal unit is what, when you dissect the object, you get the object, you open it, you dissect it. So you have minimal unit, you have pieces. And the minimal piece for morphology is the morpheme. Nothing can be smaller than a morpheme to a morphologist. Okay?
Okay.
Being minimal, defining what is a minimal unit depends on the perspective you are taking. If you take the perspective of the phoneticist, it's the sound. It's all about the sound. For the morphologist, it's all about the meaning of the thing, the meaning of the piece. And when I say meaning, I don't mean the meaning in English. I mean the origin of the meaning, what it means. Un is not a word in English, but uh, un unimportant is not the same as important. So produces a change when it's moved in a word, when it's put together as a prefix. So is meaningful because it changes meaning. Take, for example, unsystematically. Each of these uh, parts of the word before the plus sign, un, system, attic, all, and li, each of them is a morpheme because each element here will contribute to produce the word unsystematically. And systematic is a word. It's a possible word. Systematical or systematically is another possible word. And unsystematically is another possibility. So less complex units get together to form more complex units. This is basically the most basic notions of morphology that you should have. We start from the less complex to the more complex by adding morphemes. It's like building a wall. Yeah, building a house. Okay, you have the house, you have the walls, but inside the walls you have the bricks. Okay, and if you want to be detailist, inside the bricks you have the atoms and so on. But anyway, so as I said, morphemes are not words. Why not? Because unsystem is not a word, but I can form unsystem if I need to put unsystem together before I make the word unsystematic or unsystematical. Okay, so morpheme is not a word. Ah, teacher, but attic is a word. Yes, but it's just a coincidence. Okay, the attic of the house. No, attic is here. It's just a morpheme. Li is not a word, but it's a morpheme. Morphemes are not words. They are parts of words. And we have words sometimes that are coincident with only one morpheme. Okay, so we have words with one morpheme, with two morphemes, with three, four. How many morphemes you would like to? It's there's no fixed rule that limits the number of morphemes of a word. Okay, but sometimes we have words that are built of but one morpheme. It's the case of boy, that has only one syllable and one morpheme. Desire, lady, and water. Although they have two syllables, they are only one morpheme. Okay, you cannot split lady into two morphemes or water, even desire. I think desire, there is a controversy if it's two syllable or three syllable. For me, it's three syllable. Desire. But anyway, or crocodile. Okay, you cannot split it. You cannot make it smaller than that. Or salamander with four syllables, or so on. Okay, so differently from our big word that we all use in Portuguese, paralelepípedo, which we have parallel, which can be split. Parallel means side by side. So in this case, paralelepípedo is a word that can be split into morpheme. But in these examples I quote here in English, all these words they are composed of only one morpheme. But we also have words with two morphemes, like boyish. When you behave like a boy, we say you have a boyish behavior or a childish behavior. So in this case, we have boy plus ish or selfish. Self meaning the individual and ish meaning related to. So when you are selfish, you only consider your individual aspects or desirable. This final above here has nothing to do with the able, okay, that we say I am able to speak English, okay? It's just a coincidence. Please don't make confusion. So we have desire plus bow. We also have three morpheme words like boyishness or desirability, and so on. Okay, the list is extensive with four morphemes. Gentlemanly, gentlemanliness, it's even difficult to pronounce, or undesirability. The undesirability of something when you don't want it to happen, it's something undesirable. So it has the feature of undesirability. Four pieces to form a word, more than four. For example, the anti-disestablishmentarianism, when you are against the establishment and it's a trend that puts people together, like in communism, socialism, capitalism. Ism means a belief, yeah, that puts a group of people together under an ideology or a set of behavior. But I cannot say uh, I can say anti-disestablishment, but I cannot stop here anti-disestablishmentary. I have to put the "an." This morpheme requires that the next comes with it. Anti-disestablishmentarian. And if you are anti-disestablishmentarian, you are part of a movement called anti-disestablishmentarianism. For example, proper names may become adjectives. And to do so, they need this ism. Karl Marx. So, out of Karl Marx uh, considerations and theoretical foundations, we have Marxism or uh, a political party, PT, Petism. In English, we do not have this, but we have ismo in Portuguese, or Petism, if we had to translate it, or uh, for example, uh, capital. Yeah, uh, when you believe in the ideologies of capital, we say you are a capitalist, and so on. Okay, so in this case, capitalist is the adjective, and capitalism is the name of the ideology. So this ism works to give proper names or to give nouns a terminology for a certain belief, a certain ideology, a certain behavior pattern. Okay, but we need always morphemes before it. What I'm trying to show you here is how we can extend words almost infinitely by adding morphemes. Okay, we may have 5, 6, 7 morphemes. Sometimes it's possible to form the word, although it does not exist. And I came to my point. I was about to say and I forgot, but now I remembered. This is part of the creativity of language. That's why language is so creative, because its rules are open. For example, before Donald Trump, we didn't have the word Trumpism, but now we do, because language is open class. Language admits creativity. And this creativity is not just arbitrarian. There are some rules. Even to be creative, you must follow some rules in the language, okay? And one of these rules are the morphosyntactical rules. Any questions so far? Tá tudo
No.
bem, gente? Vocês estão vivos?
Yeah, it is.
Estou terminando, ok? So next class, we are going to see that a morpheme can have different phonetic forms in different environments. Teacher, what do you mean? I mean that someone that is not uh, is not someone that deserves respect is unrespectable, but someone that is not responsible is irresponsible. I'm going to prove to you that sometimes ed, as you have seen, is different from ed. I have proved this to you. But next step is to prove you that an is equals to ear, which is equals to in, which is equals to this. In other words, by next class, we are going to discuss that it's not a matter of writing, it's not a matter of spelling, it's not a matter of sound, it's a matter of semantic function. Okay? So, but I'll leave you to next class. And this property here, just as a teaser, this property is called allomorphy. Allo because it's analogous. Morphy because it's the form. So we have analogous forms. When something is analogous, it's not the same, but it plays the same role. Okay? So we are going to discuss by next class allomorphs and homophones. Homophones is a concept that, as the word tells you, phones comes from phonetics. So when they are homo, they are similar, the same sounds. Allomorphs is a concept that comes from morphology. It's analogous forms with the same function, but that are sometimes spelled, sometimes pronounced differently, but with the same morphological function. Uh, I'll leave the rest of the class, which in fact I should have finished. I leave it open for questions if you would like to ask some questions. Don't you have questions?
No, I don't have questions.
Is it okay for you? All the others okay?
Yes.
I don't have either.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so this is a very introductory class. Please go to Brington and start reading chapter 4. Okay, read the most as you can of chapter 4 about the differences between word and morphemes. Okay, because we are going to keep developing this topic on Thursday. Right? Hope you enjoyed. It's kind of different from Panorama. It's more technical. Okay. Sometimes we get lost. It's normal. Don't panic. And if you feel you are somehow lost, don't hesitate to send me an email to talk to me. Okay. So
All
have a
right.
nice morning. Okay. And see you on Thursday.
See you, Mister.
Goodbye.
See
See ya.
you.
See you.